Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Thank you for staying with us. With us in studio is a legal practitioner, writer, and policy analyst, Okike Ezugwu. He's going to be giving us his perspective on Nigeria in search of acceptable constitution. Good morning, Okike. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Great. So, very quickly, can you tell us the progress so far with the 2025, constitutional review? There's been a lot of noise, and we understand that it's been in phases. So, to date, what has been the progress so far with this constitutional review?
The committee that is started with the responsibility of collecting the opinions of the Nigerian people across the 6 geopolitical zones. Because the issue is that the 1999 Constitution, which is the ground norm or the law that is presently in force, was initiated by a military administration.
Yes.
So the argument that it does not reflect the wishes of the Nigerian people, because from the beginning it was not a people-driven constitution, and that is why there has been clamor for its amendment, substantial amendment, or even outright a replacement. So that is why the campaign is currently ongoing for consultation with people across the geopolitical zones in the country. And the committee in the two federal houses, that is the Federal House of Representatives and the Senate, formed and started with the responsibility of collecting these opinions. They are still moving around the country collecting the opinions of the people, trying to reflect the wishes of the Nigerian people in the subsequent amendment.
But like you rightly put it, that the 1999 Constitution does not reflect the wishes or the interests of the people. Some people and other schools of thought have actually put forward the fact that the Constitution, 1999 Constitution, should be expunged outrightly rather than amended. Given your expertise as a lawyer and a political analyst, what's your view of that? You think it should be expunged or just amended?
It is just that it is becoming too frequent, and it is beginning to sound ridiculous that after every 4 years there's a call assembly for constitutional amendment, which is not what it is. The Constitution of the United States of America has lasted over 2 centuries, and it has recorded a total of 27 amendments, and this is after deep national introspection and reflection. And the foundation of any constitution, so to say, is never perfect. It is always flawed. The 1999 Constitution came into being when the military were at the helm of affairs, and in the process of transitioning to a democratic system of government, they had to put up a constitution which is going to support the new political and legal framework, and that was how the 1999 Constitution came into being. And it was drafted in consultation with some of the best legal experts in the country, and it took fundamental and essential features from democratic constitutions across the world, which has some wonderful provisions, and is substantially flawed, just as every constitution. So I'm not of the opinion that it should be outrightly expunged, which is going to be problematic because we are going to encounter a lot of legal bottlenecks.
What kinds of legal bottlenecks, really?
Nigeria is a multiracial, multilingual, and a multi-religious country. We are ethnically varied substantially, and when people make argument in Nigeria, for the arrangement of anything in the country, it is not informed by logic or what is going to be good for everybody. It is often informed by tribalism, and other ethnic and parochial considerations.
Yes.
So if you expect that you can bring the Nigerian people in their multi-racialism and multi-religious composition to come together and come up with a consensus on how we can adopt a wonderful constitution, that is a sort of idealistic pipe dream. It is not going to work.
You think so?
For a century, and it is not going to make headway. That is why no civilian administration had been able to curate a state despite several attempts in the past. State
Interesting.
creation was possible during the military era because they did it with just a decree,
Yeah.
without
So
consultation with anybody.
yeah. So state creation is one of the most popular, demands from this review. What's your opinion so far? Because we have seen advertorials support the state support. What do you think? What do you make out of all this? Because you just said that state creation was possible by decree. You don't think it's possible with the constitution as Nigeria is currently. What do you make of all this? You think it's a waste of time?
State creation is going to be important, in my opinion, for one reason. Because if you check the 6 geopolitical zones that make up the Nigerian Federation, you see that the southeastern part of the country has been marginalized when it comes to the number of states.
Yes, yes.
The northwest has as much as 7 states, and then every other geopolitical zone in the country has at least 6 states.
Yes.
But the southeast is left with just 5 states.
Mhm.
This brings about enormous inequity in the distribution of resources. to
Sure,
the country.
sure,
So
sure.
if a new state is going to be created to bring a sense of balance and to do something about this disequilibrium,
Mm.
then it is fine. But it has to be from the southeast.
Yeah.
Because we are the only geopolitical
It's-
zone in the country.
It makes
Just
yeah.
5. So it's in the sense of equity, in the sense of justice, it makes a lot of sense. But I don't think that the creation of multiple states, as it is currently being proposed, even ridiculously, is any solution to some of the problems that Nigeria is facing. It is only necessary for us to create additional one state in the southeast to bring a sense of justice and equilibrium in the entire national equation.
Now let me take you back to what you said. You said that state creation was, or curation, in your words, was only possible by decrees, during the military era.
Because if you look, at the section of
Okay.
the current 1999
My question
Constitution,
is, do you think using Southeast as case study, because we've agreed it's logical that they get an extra state, do you think it's possible to make that happen in this era? Because the last one was during the military era. Is it possible, the way our constitution runs, to make that happen in this era for the Southeast?
realistically and objectively speaking, it is not possible. It has become a kind of a political ritual, for every administration that comes into power to organize a constitutional conference, which I think is just to compensate some political jobbers, who get temporary employment as organizing members of these committees, and then you have hefty budgets made and distribution of resources in that respect, and at the end, nothing happens. It happened with the Jonathan Sandem election.
2014?
Yeah, it happened with even Obasanjo was the one who organized the most extensive national conference in this respect, and nothing came out of it. I'm not expecting that the Tinubu-led government is going to be magical this time in bringing it to fruition.
So you're saying that these constitutional conferences, they submit their findings and recommendations, and it's
what
just
I call
swept.
hostage politics, because every government is trying to tantalize the people to make it seem like they are envisioning a sort of Eldorado for the people, that they are trying to bring about adjustments of the fundamental and structural inequalities that we have in the country. But it is just to pay political lip service and to haunt the gallery in preparation for the next election.
So if this is a vicious cycle, how do we escape the mouse race, the rat race? This is a vicious cycle. It has happened with Obasanjo, with Jonathan, and with Tinubu. How do we break away from this rat race? What should be done?
Well, I don't know what should be done, if you ask me, because there is no political will on the part of people who are constitutionally saddled with the responsibility to bring some of these things to fruition. They are using it to play politics, and I'm not going to force them to do the needful. But the creation of a additional state for the Southeast is essential if we are going to have a sense of justice, because it is partly responsible for the agitation you witness in the Southeast about the creation of the Biafran state.
Yes.
Because the people of the Southeast justifiably feel that they have been marginalized. So if it is a country that is interested in its continued coexistence and in enthroning, the principles of justice and equity, they should do something robustly and swiftly to bring about the creation of an additional Southeastern state to bring about a sense of balance.
Another very popular agitation in this constitutional review is about women. in politics and being given seats in leadership. What's your take on that?
You know about when women got the votes in the United States of America, I wouldn't believe when, and even in Great Britain. So the feminist agitation or movement, it has been long in coming. It has been long running, you know. And I think the best approach to it is not tokenism, because that is what that agitation is about. When, you know, ipso facto, some seats in the Federal House of Representatives should be allocated to women, whether they run or not. And then it shouldn't be that way. Women should compete, but
Yes.
it should be a favorable competing ground for everybody. You know, and women should be able to come out and get involved in the political process, and then we get support. You can see that despite the fact that the United States of America has existed for over 2 centuries, it is yet to produce a female president. But the agitation in the United States is not that, you know, for the Republican Party should compulsorily field a female presidential aspirant, and the Democratic Party should compulsorily field a female presidential aspirant, so that we preclude a situation where women will have to compete with men. You know, that is not democratic. It is tokenism, and it is dangerous for the political and economic development.
Could you expound on that?
Very serious.
Could you expound on that?
I said it is tokenism, a dangerous form of
Yeah, that word.
affirmative action.
We need you to break it down.
Yeah, it is a dangerous form of affirmative action.
Mhm.
You know, where, you know, a reward of people, you know, with offices and responsibilities is
Yes.
not based on merit,
Yes.
but on some considerations which are outside merit. If you have an ambitious state, you know, which is interested in maximizing its best and getting the best in leadership, then you have to go through the filtration processes.
Sure,
you
sure,
have to
sure.
compete, and then when you get this responsibility, we know that you work for it. This is just like someone who comes and runs a business, has that entrepreneurial spirit. It's largely different from someone who inherited a family
Yes,
business. There's
yes,
a great like
yes.
cases of mismanagement on the part of the one who inherited a family business, and from the one who is just inspired, who is an entrepreneur by motivation and vision.
Must
and
have failed and succeeded and
to
failed multiple
realize their
times
business
to
and
learn
their business goals.
learn some lessons.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, let's still talk about women involvement. You know, women are making headways in, you know, other areas of endeavors, but then they're nowhere near the corridors of power. What are some inherent drivers that have actually contributed to this? You think it's strictly constitutional, or there are other, you know, contributing factors? What are your
Women
thoughts?
are not the only marginalized group of people in Nigerian politics.
Okay.
The young people are, the poor are, you know, because the electioneering processes in Nigeria are heavily financialized.
Naturally excludes them.
Yeah, this is, you don't know when you want to buy tickets to run for the Federal House of Representatives using any of the major political platforms. For instance, you have to cough up millions of naira, and you can see the economic situation in the country. So if you've not been involved in leadership, to have involved in corrupt enrichment, one way or the other, it will be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for you to have access to that kind of money, which we now use to aspire for office. And when you buy this ticket, you have to make arrangement for electioneering campaign. You have to employ your staff. It is just extremely capital intensive. So because of this, it naturally excludes a lot of classes of persons, women inclusive, because there has been this disproportionate
Distribution of wealth.
distribution of wealth between the male and the economic environment is heavily dominated by men, you know, because of the traditional roots of women in the society. You know, it is just now that women are beginning to make inroad into the corporate sector and to be serious entrepreneurs. Traditionally, it was not like that, but it's a process of social evolution, and like every time we would be able to get there. And you can see that the political arena is also excessively masculine. You see what happens during elections. It is something that ordinarily it would be difficult for a woman to stand that kind of dogfight, if you permit me to use that expression. So these are some of the inherent structural barriers and disadvantages that women and other marginalized group, you know, face in getting elected into office. You can see that Kamala Harris was the one who ran as the nominee for the Democratic Party. You know, she did not need to hire people to snatch ballot boxes for her, or to get involved in any excessively masculine pit fight for office. It was a pure democratic process based on her competence, track record, and credibility, she was able to compete favorably, you know, and bound out of the stage with her head very high. So we are hoping to have a system, you know, which is going to make it possible for women to compete without needing to do things that are naturally unfitted for women
to do. All right, barrister. Okay, so before I let you go, what other outcries or agitations are as popular as the state creation and then the affirmative action for women in the constitution?
Electoral reform.
Let's what
Electoral reform.
What does that entail?
Electoral reform. The electoral process needs to be more electronic. You know, like the accreditation.
I'm sorry to cut you short at this, but when you say this, most voters, especially those who voted in 2023, they just wave it away with a sigh because we were told Beavers will work, but we also were played out. So what will be different in this reform?
This also raises the fundamental question. If I am a writer,
okay.
You know, way back when I was in the university, I did an article about the impressive collection of loans of the Nigerian Federation, and the conclusion I reached is that the problem of this country is not a paucity of loans. We have an impressive collection of legislations. The problem is the abject lack of will for its enforcement, and then the general attitude of the Nigerian people. So to me, the issue is not even constitutional amendment. It has to be granted that the constitution of the Nigeria, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is considerably flawed, but it is not as dangerous, you know, for our being as a polity as the general cultural orientation of the Nigerian people, you know, who for some reasons I can't readily explain, are naturally lawless. You know, because the bill as you talked about, it was written into the Electoral Act that was passed with great excitement and expectation. After the election, INEC, which is the body that is constitutionally charged with the responsibility of overseeing the election process, turned around and did something different to the disappointment and chagrin of the Nigerian people. So in this instance, now should we blame the absence of law or the violation of an existing law? So this is the whole issue about the absurd clamor for constitutional amendment every 4 years. Is it really about the demerits of the constitution? About the fact that anyone who finds himself in a position of authority is trying to negative and take advantage of the law? So these are the fundamental questions. Then coming back to the question you earlier asked to me about agitation, it has to be electronic. If it is becoming difficult for the Nigerian courts to give a clear-cut interpretation using the Electoral Act, then it has to be written into the Constitution that the accreditation of voters during election has to be electronic, and that there has to also be electronic transmission of votes
in real time
to the central unit, so that we can have credible elections. And when we have credible elections, we will be able to elect leaders who are popular, who are the choice of the people. And then when they get into office, we will be able to hold them accountable. For a situation whereby someone gets into office by breaking every rule in the book, there can be no accountability. So that is extremely important in my opinion.
Interesting. So
and then for women, there is also a provision in the Nigerian Constitution which makes for dangerous patriarchy.
Tell us about it.
When a Nigerian man gets married to a woman from anywhere in the world, automatically
she becomes a citizen
of
yes.
Nigeria. But when a Nigerian woman marries a foreigner,
yes,
you have to reside in the country for 15 days before you qualify for citizenship. I think this is a holdover from the past. It is anachronistic, and something has to be done about it.
Interesting.
Then creation of additional state for the southeast. It is necessary to have a sense of balance and equity in the country.
Great.
It is going to cause, you know, a natural dying down of the agitation that is happening here for the creation of another country of the Nigerian Federation. If we have a sense of equity and balance.
Sure. Okay, so finally, before I let you go, now it's no news that every sector in Nigeria is in dire need of reforms of some sort. Tell us, is there anything for the judiciary in the constitutional review? Is there any sort of clamor for some sort of reform in the judiciary in this current review?
The judiciary has to be more financially independent. in my opinion, which it is not.
Just finance?
Financially independent, and then the appointment of the members of the judiciary, that is judges, should be largely and completely if not completely separated from politicians. Because if a state governor comes into office, he has the prerogative to appoint new judges. And if a judge is appointed by a governor, I need not tell you again that such a judge will be answerable to the governor. So if we have a sort of independent body, manned by people who are qualified, in the judiciary, to bring about the appointment of judges entirely insulated from the political process, it is going to bring about necessary developments in the judiciary. Because what we are seeing now is politically influenced decisions coming from the court, and the entire judicial system in Nigeria is becoming a charade. It is becoming a charade, and you can't have economic development if the judiciary is not impartial and independent. So this independence of the judiciary, which is going to come with financial autonomy and the separation of the appointment of judges and judicial workers
from the state,
from the state on the political process, is extremely necessary. It should be sacrosanct.
Thank you so much, Okike Ezugwu, legal practitioner, writer, and policy analyst, for your deep insights in the subject matter.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for still staying with us. Don't go anywhere. New Day continues right after now.